Good morning, and welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Joel Ibanez, and I am your worship associate today. I am joined, I've got a crowd, you know. I am joined by our Rev Sian Wiltshire, who would like to take a moment to welcome you and our new music director.
What? Okay, if you want to know who our new music director is, what I want you to do is watch this right here. Oop, nope, that didn't work. Ta-da! There we go. So for those of you who are new here and don't know, Steve and Susan have been long-time members of this church. And when we were in search for a music director, they stepped up to be interim. And then we didn't realize it, but then they decided they really loved doing it and applied for the position. So I want you to know that they are full staff members. They are paid staff members. And we are very excited to see them grow in the role. You'll see Steve doing most of the conducting, where Susan will fill in for him. Behind the scenes, Susan is doing a lot of research and collaboration and also putting together a big songbook for us and all sorts of things. So we are absolutely delighted that they are going to be our new music directors. So make sure you say congratulations after this service.
So, Reverend Sian, Steve, and Susan would like to welcome you this morning, along with our Danielle Lewis, our Director of Religious Education for Children and Youth, who is not here today because she's celebrating her birthday. So, yay. Whether you've been here 30 years or 3, 10 months or 10 months or 10 minutes, and whether you strolled, rolled, zoomed, ran, or danced in, we're glad to have you join us today. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you're seeking a spiritual home, we hope you will find it here. We're a community of many different identities and beliefs. We are bound together not by dogmas, creeds, or fears, but rather a covenant to create a welcoming, inclusive, and loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. In the spirit of building this community, let's recognize the many volunteers who have helped put this service together today. Wow. Thank you. Roomers, we do invite you to silence your cell phones during the service today. And Zoomers, we invite you to say hello in the chat. As we worship today, let us acknowledge that our church property rests upon the sacred ancestral homelands of the Ahachiman and Tongva peoples, who seek justice and responsible stewardship. We begin our worship with the lighting of our chalice. And this morning, I'd like to invite Craig Preston up to light the chalice. Craig has been a member of our congregation for the last 5 years, originally from Watsonville, California. He does accounting by day and activism by night. And on that note, he will be heading again to in July to DC to lobby Congress for the Citizens Climate Lobby. Yes. So as he lights this, let us all say in unison affirmation together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. This we affirm together. Okay, please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our opening song.
Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open your eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
So today we're going to be exploring thinking a little differently, using our imagination. And I've been reading this book called The Atomic Self, and at the beginning of the book, it has this wonderful reading that got me thinking about things differently. So it begins like this. What do atoms have to do with you? Everything. They were present and intimately involved when you and everyone you ever loved or hated did everything that you and they have ever done. Every scent you ever savored, every sight you've ever seen, every song you've ever enjoyed, every cry or sigh that ever passed your lips sprang from atoms at work within the atmosphere and the darkest recesses of your body. When you eat, the bodies of other living things become part of you. If you cut yourself, the wreckage of dying stars runs out in a stream of ancient atoms that triggered some of the most violent explosions in the cosmos. When you flush your wastes, you scatter the atomic echoes of lightning bolts and volcanoes into a global cycle that may someday return them to you, as unpleasant as that sounds. And whenever you grin, the sparkling of your teeth conceals the dim afterglow of nuclear fallout from Cold War bomb tests over the Pacific. You are not only made of atoms, you are atoms.
Returning to the source of one, the planets ring in cosmic celebration. Returning returning to the source of we live and breathe, a part of all creation, returning to the source of one. We come and go, a theme of variation, returning to the source of one. Stars and planets go spinning by, points of light in a darkened sky. Hear the music as lights unfurl, bringing light to a waiting world. The angels sing a song for all creation, returning to the source of one. We shine with light, celestial emanation, returning to the source of one. We raise our voice in music notation, returning to the source of one. The music makes harmonic conversation, returning to the source of one. No more fighting or right and wrong, now we're singing a common song. End of sorrow and end of strife, now we're living a common life. The world is sound, the universe vibration, returning to the source of one. The planets spin in cosmic celebration, returning to the source of one. Returning to the source of one. Returning to the source of
All right. How many of you have ever heard of this guy, Albert Einstein? Right, most of us have heard. See, I'm glad. Okay, so young people have actually also heard of him. He said imagination is more important than knowledge because knowledge is limited, but imagination encircles the world. What did he mean by that? Well, in our Time for All Ages today, as we give you some fun things to think about, that imagination is actually absolutely essential to science. Every scientific discovery begins with the question, what if? Right? Or an idea that maybe it seems a little wild until it changes the world. So let me give you some examples, all right? So the first one was one day, a scientist, his name was Frank Fish, he studied how airplanes fly efficiently, and he saw a painting like this one of a humpback whale. Now, he saw that the fins on the top of the fins were kind of bumpy, and he sort of laughed. The artist got it wrong. Those bumps, in order for the whale to swim smoothly through water, aerodynamics, that's the study of how things flow, well, they must be on the smooth side. But when he talked to the artist and he started studying the humpback whales, he realized he was wrong. No, those things, they're called tubercles. I love that name, tubercle. They actually are on the top of it, which made him think, well, I wonder if we were to do that on wind turbines, would it make a difference? And that's what they did. And it turns out that those bumps actually make the wind turbines generate electricity 32% better. Oddly enough. Now, this type of science where we learn from nature is called biomimicry. It's a new field of science. It's very cool. Here's another example of how of using your imagination, of asking, what if? In Kenya, this woman named Nzambi Mati, she looked at all of the plastic trash on her ground around her neighborhood, and she thought, well, this is really ugly. What if we could turn this into something useful, like maybe bricks? So she imagined a new kind of machine that would take all of this plastic around, this trash, and turn it into bricks. And that's what she did. She built this. And now her teams make strong, colorful bricks from old plastic to help clean up her city. And they're stronger than concrete. They can be used for buildings and pavers. And she recently came to the US working with other scientists and found an even better way to make it work. Because that's what scientists do. They always make things better and better, or they try. A third one is this guy here. So this is in 2013, so almost, a little over 20 years ago, a teenager named Boyan Slat. He was 16 years old. He went on a fishing trip with his family to Greece. But while diving, which he hoped to see lots of really cool fish and everything, instead he got really upset because he saw more plastic than he did fish. He's like, why can't we clean this up? I want to fix this. So he began to imagine what that might look like, and he drew these big pictures with these big floating arms that maybe could gather plastic, but maybe it would be powered by wind or solar power. Now, grown-ups, they all thought, oh no, you're just dreaming. But he went on to create it, right? And his idea worked. Now those machines are cleaning up the ocean and all of the horrible plastic. They then take that plastic and recycle. So maybe he'll work with Nzambi in Kenya. He predicts that if he keeps going with this, in 20 to 25 years, with these machines, we could clean up our oceans of all the plastic. Amazing. So imagination is so important to science. It helps us ask, what if we did this differently? What could the world look like without this particular problem? Or what would nature do? When we act on these questions with creativity and care, we can build a future that's not only sustainable, but hopeful. And that is our story for today. So I'd like to invite, I believe Maria Good, is she here? There she is, Maria is going to come up here. Thank you, Maria, I did see you. She's going to come up and light the children's chalice, and then we'll sing our children out to the religious education classes if they would like to go. All right. Well, this morning I want to invite you into a time of meditation again, thinking about things a little differently. So let's go into that time of meditation, settle in your body, find stillness there. Let your breath become gentle and steady. In and out, in and out. Now, if you're willing, I invite you to open your eyes softly and raise your hand so that it's right in front of you. And look at it with soft eyes, just your hand, this ordinary part of you. And now imagine that somewhere in your hand, in your skin, in your bones, your muscles, is something older than time as we know it. There is a part of your hand that came from a star that exploded too long ago to imagine, a star that scattered its light across the universe, leaving behind the smallest pieces, dust, energy, atoms. Atoms everywhere. And when life began, perhaps this part of you found its way into a fern deep in an ancient forest. And when the fern was crushed and buried, this part of you became coal. And when the world turned and turned again, perhaps that coal became a diamond, hard and brilliant, as beautiful as the star from which it came. And now, somehow, here it is again, in you, in your hand, in the phone that rings. This part of you that is so small, it can't be seen. This part of you was here from the beginning of the world, and it will be here at the end of it. It's an atom. Such a small world, such a vast meaning. Atom. A word that holds stars, ferns, fire, and you. So as you breathe, let yourself wonder, what stardust rests in you? What ancient stories live in your bones? What light still lingers from the beginning of time found in your hand? You are not separate from the universe. You are its continuation, its unfolding, its remembering. And in the stillness, may you feel the awe of that truth. You were there from the beginning of the universe and of time. When we were all there, and we were one, and we were many. Blessed be, and let it be so. When you're ready, you may open your eyes and join the choir in singing.
Crystal and a cell, a starfish and a saurian, and caves where ancients dwelt. The sense of law and beauty, a face turned from the sod. Some call it evolution, and others call it God. It's on the far horizon, the infinite tender sky, the ripe rich tints of cornfields and wildly sailing high, and over high and lowland, the charm of goldenrod. Some people call it autumn, and others call it God. Like tides on crescent sea beach, when moons so new and thin, into our hearts my yearnings come welling, surging in. Come from the mystic ocean, whose rim no foot has trod. Some people call it longing, and others call it God.
Oh yeah, I'm going there. For many of you know that I love Star Trek. I grew up watching Star Trek with my family, Sundays, 6 o'clock, in front of the TV with our TV tray and our meal heated up from the oven. Ah, I love them. I loved how they solved problems each week, right? It was this mixture of science and compassion that always seemed to somehow come together to build something wonderful. In almost every moment in every episode of Star Trek, when the crew encounters something that defies explanation, it might be a planet that never existed before, or an energy being that communicates with music, or a life form so different from us that it didn't even look alive, right? So what does the crew do? Well, they don't panic. They don't leap to judgment, although sometimes, okay, maybe they do a little bit. But what they do is they get curious, right? What is going on here? Scan for anomalies, Captain, right? They scan, they get data, right? And then they form a hypothesis. Spock with his science and McCoy with his compassion. And then you've got Kirk with his leadership skills balancing the two. And they test the hypothesis, they adjust, and they don't always agree, but they keep seeking truth. Now, y'all know Carl Sagan, and one of my favorite people to ever to quote. Carl Sagan, that amazing astronomer, he once said, "Science is more than a body of knowledge, it's a way of thinking." Science is more than a body of knowledge, it's a way of thinking. And to my mind, it's Star Trek's way of thinking. And what does he mean by this way of thinking, the way that Star Trek did it? So I want to introduce you, if you remember maybe from high school, the scientific method, okay? Now this all looks very rational, maybe even a little sort of cold, right? Observe, question, hypothesize, experience, analyze the results, and draw your conclusions, then publish them, right? Sounds really dry to me, and my eyes start going, okay. You could just see the abstract, for that, all right. Now, we might have all learned this when we were in high school or college, but when you see it in action, it's anything but dry or cold. And I'm going to give you a fictional example from Star Trek. Oh, yeah. Okay. Do you guys remember this episode, The Devil in the Dark and the Horta? Okay. Basically, what's happening is that miners are on this remote planet, and they're being killed by a mysterious creature deep in the caves, right? This is the observation, right? So they ask the Enterprise crew for help. Everyone assumes it's some sort of monster, right? That's the question. What is this? Hypothesis, it's a monster. They want to destroy it. And in fact, on their first encounter, you gotta love the special effects there, they shoot it, right? But Spock, ever the scientist, slows down and asks, why is this doing it now? The miners have been here for a really long time. He asks a better question. He observes the evidence and he sees patterns that others miss. He gathers data, right? He experiments and analyzes the data. And then one day, as they're exploring the caves that the creature is making, Kirk, in his kneeling way that he does, finds a bunch of eggs, and they realize, wait a minute, it's not a monster, it's a mother, and she's protecting her young. New conclusion on the data presented. So then, of course, Spock goes into his mind meld thing to reach an understanding about it, and the miners and the creature end up living happily ever after. New outcome, problem solved, right? They had this shift in understanding born from science, yes, but also from curiosity, imagination, and humility. The scientific method isn't cold or clinical. It requires the spiritual practices of wonder, imagination, and humility. And if it's used correctly, it can be a moral compass for seeking the truth. Let me say that again. If used correctly, it can be a moral compass for seeking the truth. And honestly, that's what Star Trek taught me. Now, we often think of science and spirituality as kind of opposites. One is logical and the other one may be emotional or woo-woo, as we like to say, right? But what if they're actually not rivals, but two sides of the same coin? What if the scientific method itself is a kind of spiritual path, a spiritual discipline, a spiritual practice, a way of being that invites us to stay curious, to imagine new truths, and to treat the unknown not with fear, but with wonder and humility. While the scientific method, as I said, is often seen as logical and dry stuff, every step along the way of this requires that we think things differently, that requires on imagination. So for example, right, observation and questioning. Imagination helps you notice the world differently. My hand has atoms in it that came from a star. New way of thinking, right? Where did these atoms come from? So for example, Sir Isaac Newton, he imagined why an apple falls and then wondered if the same force pulls on the moon. I have no idea how he made that leap, but it's amazing. He was using his imagination from an apple, right? And to make a good guess, you have to imagine an explanation that hasn't been proven yet. You have to think beyond what is already known. So when you form your hypothesis, you have to be imaginative. And so even people like Marie Curie, when she was imagining what was going on with radioactivity, she actually imagined the unseen particles before she could ever measure them. She had a hypothesis and put it forward. Scientists also imagine tools, systems, and models that might reveal the answer. So for example, Galileo, right? He imagined dropping 2 balls from the Tower of Pisa, not just to observe, but to challenge how people thought motion worked. People thought, if something is bigger, it'll fall faster to the ground. Kind of makes some logical sense, right? But when he did it, it turns out that gravity pulls on them equally. Ooh. So interpreting data, looking at the data of scientists visualize patterns, build models, and rethink what the evidence shows. So Charles Darwin, if you notice, he saw different finch beaks and imagined generations of adaptation, giving us the theory of evolution. And when an experiment fails, right, imagination helps ask new questions instead of giving up. It turns wrong answers into new directions. I don't know if you're aware of this, but literally Thomas Edison tried thousands of different materials for the light bulb, imagining what might work next. He says, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. So next time you think as you're experimenting, that sucked, I'm going to lose it. No, think of him 10,000 times. All right, so the scientific method is not just cold logic, right? It's a dance between reason and wonder. It begins in imagination. It's tested by evidence and returns again to curiosity. As Einstein, another wonderful quote from him, he says, logic will get you from A to B, but imagination will take you everywhere. I love that. That's the thing I find about these scientists is that they love imagination. It's what got them to be scientists as they began to imagine differently, to think differently. Okay, now that'll all be really fun and interesting. I have no doubt I had fun putting it together, but how does this turn into a spiritual practice for our everyday lives? We all encounter problems every single day, right? Maybe it's, why am I so tired in the afternoon? Or why do arguments with my spouse happen every time we come home from work? Okay, good observation and questions. Form a hypothesis, right? I guess that you can test. Maybe I'm not drinking enough water. Maybe when we both come home, we're hangry. So then you try testing it. Drink more water, see how you feel, right? This is the experimental phase. Try having a snack before coming home, before you start talking about your day at work. Observe and gather data. Does the tiredness go away? Did the argument happen again? Analyze and adjust. If your first guess didn't work, try another one. If it didn't work, you found out something useful. That may seem pretty straightforward and simple, but this method, when we actually start applying it to our lives, we help us live with less Well, there's our, sorry, I should have had that up there. But so we live with less judgment and more curiosity, more resilience when things go wrong, right? We can start testing again, and more willingness to learn and grow. It's a practice really of humility. We don't assume we're right. We test, adjust, and evolve. How many times have we all gotten ourselves into trouble because we assume we know the answer already? Right? To test and to adjust and evolve, that's a deeply human and deeply spiritual way to live. So what about religion? What if you apply this to religion? What if you applied the scientific method to some spiritual truths? Well, if we applied the scientific method to the Unitarian Universalist spiritual truth of interdependence, that we're all connected. Well, we can observe that we notice that in ecosystems, everything is connected. Trees provide oxygen, which animals breathe, including us. Bees pollinate flowers, which produce fruit. Human beings rely on water, soil, microbes, and even each other to survive. We observe this in our emotional and social lives as well, right? A kind word changes someone's day. A small act of injustice ripples through larger systems of harm. And communities thrive or struggle based on how people treat one another. So we begin with the profound, simple observation that everything does seem connected. So the question really becomes, what happens if we live like we're not connected? What happens when we live as we are? If interdependence simply is a poetic idea, or is it a truth that we can see, measure, and live? Hypothesis. If everything is interdependent, then every action, no matter how small, affects something else. This means that our care for others and for the planet and for ourselves is not optional. It's an essential for survival and flourishing. That's our hypothesis. So we're going to experiment with this. We can test this through ecological science, studying how biodiversity loss affects climate, agriculture, and disease. There's plenty of those out there. Psychology and sociology, observing how community belonging and mutual care affect human well-being. Ethics and justice work, noting how systems of harm in one area, like racial injustice or poverty, impacts entire communities. There's a ton of data out there. And we can test it ourselves in spiritual practice. Do acts of kindness improve relationships? We can practice gratitude. Does it help our well-being? We can live simply. Does that help greater environmental sustainability? The data points on all of this are pretty darn clear. When we live in harmony with each other and the earth, life thrives. When we ignore interdependence, systems break down ecologically, socially, and spiritually. So the spiritual truth of interdependence is confirmed by science, experience, and the wisdom of generations. We are not isolated beings. We are part of a vast, intricate web of life. And it's even found in the palm of our hand. To apply this scientific method to our spiritual lives is not to reduce mystery, but to deepen reverence and gratitude. To apply the scientific method to our spiritual lives is not to reduce mystery, but to deepen reverence and gratitude. To test interdependence is to discover it anew, to see that caring for others and the planet is not just a moral idea, it's a truth woven into the fabric of reality. But there is a quiet and often uncomfortable moment in the life of a scientist, a leader, a seeker, or a soul on the path of truth. The moment when the data says, you're wrong. Maybe it's a long-held belief. Maybe it's a strategy that's failing. Maybe it's a worldview that no longer holds under the weight of evidence. And in that moment, we are faced with a holy choice. defend our pride, or open our heart. The scientific method is built on this very humility. Its power lies not in just discovering truths, but in being willing to change when the truth changes, when we can see more clearly. It's not weakness to admit you were wrong, it's wisdom. It's not weakness to admit you were wrong, it's wisdom. There's a big example out there in our world. For many years, some politicians, particularly here in the United States, have denied or downplayed the reality of human-caused climate change. They've argued that the science is uncertain, that climate change naturally happens over time and isn't significantly impacted by human activity. However, when we apply the scientific method, the data tells a very different story. Right? Observation. Scientists observe rising global temperatures, melting glaciers, changing weather patterns, and increased carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. Question. Is the human activity, especially burning fossil fuels, causing the climate to change? Hypothesis. If humans emit large amounts of CO2, then we should see a correlation with rising global temperatures. Experiment and data collection. Decades of measurements, ice core data, satellite images, ocean temperatures, and climate models have been gathered and tested. Independent studies from countries around the world produce consistent results. The analysis, the data overwhelmingly shows that human activity, especially the burning of coal, oil, and gas, is the primary driver of recent global warming. Conclusion, the near universal scientific consensus, climate change is real and it's caused by humans, and it poses very significant, serious risks. When politicians deny or ignore this reality, they're rejecting not just one study, but the cumulative evidence of decades of global scientific work. To persist in that denial after the data is clear is to choose ideology over truth. In spiritual terms, it's a form of willful blindness. And in ethical terms, it delays needed action and endangers lives, especially among the most vulnerable. Admitting that we're wrong, especially in public, is hard, but it's the only way forward. When the truth is uncomfortable, that's when we most need humanity and humility. The scientific method invites us not just to know, but to change based on what we know. That's how science grows. It's how societies grow too. It's not a failure to be wrong, but we need faith in something bigger than ego. We need faith in reality, faith in learning, a faith in the shared pursuit of what is good and real. In our spiritual lives, this too is sacred. Admitting we are wrong is not the end, it's the beginning of growth. It is repentance in the true sense of the word. It's a turning around. It's turning toward truth, a turning toward love, and a turning toward life. So let us, in wonder, imagination, and humility, let us sing.
Please rise in body or spirit.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing half of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we are partnering with the Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry of California. This group represents principles specifically within immigrant rights, reproductive rights, LGBTQ plus rights, climate and environmental justice, and saving democracy. Yes. There are multiple ways in which you can support the church and this organization. You can mail a check, you can go through our website, or use an app called Vanco Mobile. If you're a roomer, you can also simply use the basket as it's passed around. The choice is yours. All the information is on our website should you need it. And as always, thank you for your generosity.
We are at a time in history where we can change the world. What do we want to pass on to future generations? That we just stayed here on earth, that we didn't look out to find out where we come from and are we alone? No, we want to pass on this joy, this excitement.
When a nation dreams big, everything falls into place.
Beyond the horizon, over the next hill, that's where we make discoveries.
That's the next frontier.
It is in us to look farther and deeper. It's deep within us. That is why we are all here. Over the next hill, beyond the horizon.
Dream of tomorrow, tomorrow. Long for the open seas. All for this adventure. Dream big, dream big. Dream of tomorrow, tomorrow. Long for the open seas, for the open seas.
There are lots of huge frozen worlds caught beyond Neptune. Huge frozen worlds. Seek out these other worlds. Hundreds of other worlds caught beyond Neptune. Caught beyond Neptune. Seek out these other worlds.
Audacious visions have the power to alter mind states. to change assumptions about what is possible.
Beyond the horizon, over the next hill, that's where we make discoveries.
That's the next frontier.
It is in us to look farther and deeper. It's deep within us. That is why we are all here. Over the next hill, beyond the horizon. If we are to discover life on another world, it will change the way everyone feels about what it is to be a living thing in the cosmos.
Is a virus alive? Is crystal alive? Does life need this? Does life need liquid water? Is virus alive? Does life have metabolism? Does life need this? Is virus alive? Is crystal alive? They're asking these questions.
Working together, I claim we can change the world.
There's a just tremendously exciting prospect called solar sailing, and it works exactly as an ordinary sailboat does.
It takes you to where you want to go. It's a whole new kind of idea. It travels on the wind from the sun. It takes you to where you want to go. It's a whole new kind of idea. It travels on the wind from the sun.
These dreams prevail in the citizens' ambitions.
It is time to set sail for the 21st century.
Beyond the horizon, over the next hill, that's where we make discoveries.
That's the next frontier.
It is in us to look farther and deeper. It's deep within us. That is why we are all here. Over the next hill, beyond the horizon. Beyond the horizon.
That's the next frontier.
It is in us to look farther and deeper. It's deep within us. That is why we are all here. Over the next hill, beyond the horizon.
Find your place in space. Space is vast and unexplored. There's a lot of work to do.
Please join in singing We Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts we share.
Well, as usual, now is that time when we honor the important events and people in our lives, and you are invited, absolutely everyone, whether you're member, friend, visitor, to participate in this ritual, this weekly ritual that we have called Joys and Sorrows. The idea is if you have held something deep in your heart that you would like to honor it by lighting a candle, whether these moments from the last days, weeks, or hours, if they've struck you at your core, you're welcome to honor them. If you're a roomer, you can come forward to light a candle, and if you'd like to share your joy or sorrow, you can write it on a slip of paper that the ushers are now passing out if you didn't get one when you first came in. And as you come forward to light your candle, simply hand that to me and I'll then read them out loud to the congregation. And Zoomers, of course, as usual, you can write yours in the chat. And I'd like to, this is Judith Stamper. She's one of our pastoral care associates, and she will light a candle for you, Zoomers. So please come forward, and as music is played, I invite you to silently offer healing or celebration as you feel called and according to your own beliefs. do, I think, online first today. Let's see here. Linda C. says, please light a candle in memory of the dear, dear father of my children on the 10th anniversary of his death from Lewy body dementia. And Sarah H., she would like to, she said she had a wonderful past month. She had many family and friends have visited 3 parties, plays, dances, and award ceremonies, all for 3 graduations in her family. She's very proud of her grandchildren. And see, Barbara S., she would like a candle lit. She says, my sister Ruth's husband, Walter, passed away on Thursday from complications following surgery. He was only 74. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see here. Dolly Duran, as only Dolly can say it, she lit a candle of joy. She says, please be advised, I am in possession of de Benneville Youth Camp photos from 1974, 75, 76, and 77, when her son Albert was in attendance. She might have some pictures of you, as some of you as well. And she says, would you like to see? So you can see Dolly after the service for those. And Jolynn, she lit a candle of holy heck. Chance is now a senior in high school. Holy heck, where does the time go? The babies are fated to grow up, but it sure feels weird. It's true. And Elizabeth K., she asked for some support. She says, please light it. She lit a candle of concern and sorrow. She says, please send support and love to all of the educators affected by the massive layoffs in the local districts. In my school alone, despite 5 teachers retiring, 7 additional teachers and support staff have been laid off, for a total of 12 positions have been eliminated. She said, fortunately, I'm safe with 25 plus years of service, but the cuts are going as deep as 11-year veteran teachers. Yeah. A lot of this has to do with the lack of federal funding going away. Glenn Highland, he lit a candle of hope. He said, please keep a good thought for her future as my good friend Nancy starts a bone marrow transplant tomorrow. Nancy and Glenn both have a dog that are siblings. So please hold her in your heart. Craig P., he says fossil fuel burning is harming our world, but that's the sorrow, but there's a joy for his new heated pump water heater. It's all electric. And it looks like he has some ideas if you would like to learn about it too. All right. I was wondering also if you could light a candle of sorrow for our wonderful trees outside in the front. As you came in here, you noticed that so many of them were pulled up. All of the bushes and that beautiful purple tree was pulled up. This was done accidentally. There was some miscommunication with our new landscapers as they were building the new sanctuary, and they took those all out. And I know that all of us are just upset about it, but they are going to replace it all, but they're not going to replace that purple tree and many others. And a candle was also lit by, from all of their friends. One is that we all wish Jamie P. a speedy recovery. She just got through some surgery. So please send Jamie your love and hope. And then everyone here, we have a tradition in this congregation that if you're over a certain age, and we are looking, Don, at possibly lowering that age. He asked last week if we could lower the age. But if you're over 90 at this point, you get happy birthday sung to you. And our beloved Ralph Haller turns 95. And everyone in the congregation, all of your friends would like to sing you happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rob. Happy birthday to you. And I should say that also Ralph submitted a joy because I wonder why, he's celebrating the visit of his sister Phyllis and her husband Jerry, who live in South Carolina. They're coming here to celebrate with him. All right, let us hold and love all the joys and celebrations and also all the hurts and sadness, whether they were spoken or silent. Let our joys remind us to be thankful, our concerns remind us to hope, and our sorrows to remind us to connect. And all of these moments can remind us that we are not alone. I invite you to join Judith in a spirit of prayer.
This is in honor of Memorial Day, a prayer by Barbara Peskin. Spirit of life, whom we have called by many names, bless those who mourn. Send peace for the soldiers who did not make the wars, but whose lives were consumed by them. Let strong trees grow above graves far from home, breathe through the arms of their branches. The earth will swallow your tears while the dead sing, no more, never again, remember me. For the wounded ones and those who receive them back, let there be someone ready when the memories come, when the scars pull and the buried metal moves, and forgiveness for those of us who are not there for our ignorance. And in us, veterans in a forest of 1,000 fallen promises, let new leaves of protest grow on our stumps. Give us courage to answer the cry of humanity's pain, and with our bare hands, out of full hearts, with all of our intelligence, let us create peace. Amen.
Let us join together now as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us this morning. If you are a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, I invite you to become a part of this beloved community. If you would like to know more about us and our church, we invite you to either stop by the welcome table outside in the courtyard or contact us at hello@ocuuc.org, and we will help you get connected. Zoomers are welcome to stay and chat after online with one another online, and we also want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out and we will help you get connected.
And speaking of all sorts of different ways to connect, look at all those things that are happening this week. We got lots of things going on for people to plug into and do and everything. I've been told that the Atheist Humanist Agnostics group that are going to meet next Sunday are actually going to be talking about science as a spiritual practice as well. So you might want to check them out. Or was it a spiritual practice without religion, I think was what Patrick told me about. Thank you, sorry, I remember that. You notice that we have something on there. So not only do we have the annual meeting coming up in a few weeks here, which is this, if you're a member of the congregation, you get to vote on our budget and how things are going. And I just also want to say that our pledge drive is doing really well, is awesome. Thank you, we've actually exceeded our goals, but that doesn't mean that if you haven't got your pledge in, go ahead and get it in. But you'll notice that I have a save the date up there. So we are planning, fingers crossed, that with the new sanctuary opening, we will probably open probably in July, maybe late July with permits and all of that, maybe early August. So we're planning the big blowouts to happen in September, 6th and 7th, a Saturday and a Sunday. We're going to do a building dedication on the Saturday. Well, we'll have dignitaries and talking heads, you know, saying wonderful things, I'm sure. And then we'll do a service on Sunday for open house. Invite all of your friends. We're going to be inviting the neighborhood, thanking the neighborhood for putting up with all of the construction, all those sorts of things. So put those on your calendar and come here. Remember to make sure you're here for those days. Should be a lot of fun. At any rate, we got big plans. We got big plans. So I invite you this week to consider the spiritual practice of the scientific method with curiosity, imagination, and humility. Let us sing our recessional song.
Let us go up and all do our part. Let us go up, bring joy to each heart. Let us go up, with difference destroy. Let us go up with joy. Let us go up and all do our part. Let us go up, bring joy to each heart. Let us go up, with difference destroy. Let us go up with joy. Let us go up with joy. Let us go up with
This service is over. Let our service continue.